It's now time for our main event with your host, Chris Tetrold Blade. Welcome to Once Upon a Turnbuckle.
Welcome back to another very special episode of Once Upon a Turnbuckle, and it's time to take another peek behind the Karnage, this great spotlight series that I've got going on at the minute, getting to know the guys who are part of the new, I like to call it the new superpower in British wrestling that's come about, Pro Wrestling Karnage. And I'm thrilled to welcome one half of the first ever Pro Wrestling Karnage Tag Team Champions, the Disevowed. Welcome to the show, Chris Bevan. How are you, mate?
Good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
That's all right. That's all right. No, thanks for coming along. I'm really having a blast learning more about this myself. It's great to. I've said it before when I sort of became first aware of Pro Wrestling Karnage. It seemed like such an exciting new promotion, doing some great things already. So we'll get into that further down. As we go on to sort of your experience with them, how involved things that you're doing at the moment.
Sure.
I guess the best way I like to start these things off is let's wind it right back in terms of your relationship with wrestling itself. When did you first discover it yourself, sort of as a fan? Were you a fan before you got in the ring?
Yes, I was a fan from a very young age. My first ever vivid memory of wrestling is probably a lot further back than a lot of people.
Right.
But I remember Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior WrestleMania. Yeah. So that's probably my first proper memory of it. And then obviously, like most people my age, I got into it during the Attitude Era a lot more. Became a much bigger fan in that around that time. And and then I kind of went off it for a few years around the PG era when all that came in.
Same era. Yeah, I don't know what it was. I mean, I thought I was a bit of an anomaly, but
I'd say a good 3 to 4 years. I was never really regularly watching it, and then all of a sudden, I just fancied watching it again. I put it on, and here I am again, stuck into it again.
It never leaves you. I have been told that, especially the guys who are involved in it. They kind of step away, do other things, and it's always there for you to kind of go back to, even as a fan. So I, like many others in the Attitude Era, a big impact when you were growing up. Was there any earliest memories of that you remember, which was responsible for sort of hooking you in, or was there someone? What was it that you related to the most?
I was a huge fan of Too Cool.
Okay, cool.
Which is, you don't get many huge fans of Too Cool.
No,
but
you don't.
I was a big mark for Too Cool. The Hardy Boys, of course.
Yeah.
Team Extreme Elite, Dudleys. I love tag team wrestling, which is ironic because when I got into became a wrestler, I was never really interested in becoming a tag team wrestler. Right. But as a fan, I do love tag team wrestling, and of course Stone Cold, obviously.
Yeah.
All of those guys. But I just around that time. I found the storylines to be a little bit more, I don't want to say realistic because it's wrestling at the end of the day.
I know. Yeah, it's sort of a bit more reality based, I suppose. They had some real out there ones, but I know what you mean. Yeah.
I got into original ECW as well around that time.
Okay, cool.
So I was big fan of ECW, and obviously they were a little bit different to what WWF at the time were doing. So
yes.
I'd say I was big into the tag teams around that time.
Okay, that's interesting because as we come up more up to date, obviously you are a tag team champion now, and we'll get into it now. Your view on tag team wrestling, where it is now, sort of as a performer and as a fan, do you feel it's more popular or better presented nowadays than it has been for sort of 10, 15 years or so?
I would say it went through a patch of no one really caring about it. I think everyone can say that.
Yeah.
I'd say, in the last, say, 5 years, it started to slowly creep back into being more popular, if you will. So saying like the 90s, early 80s, obviously tag team wrestling was huge, especially in the Southern Territories. Some of the tag teams back then were as big a stars as, your single stars. So I don't think it will ever get back to that state, but it slowly is starting to come back around. And I've noticed as well, like being in the business, a lot of guys that are coming up are actually wanting to be a tag team wrestler, which you never got. That cool. Before it would just be, if you're in a tag team, it was just because you were thrown together by a promoter,
That's it. And I think that's where I really lost faith in it almost, is I was really used to, I grew up with, tag teams like Arn and Tully and the Rockers and Demolition and that, and they were proper teams. They fit together. They were a team, and it was odd to see them apart. And some of the tag team champions you could reel off during the era that I kind of fell out of it. I mean, they were just singles guys just thrown together. You didn't really have that chemistry. I mean, your experience of tag team wrestling, have you had that chemistry with someone that you could relate back to the old days like that?
This is, I mean, if I'm completely honest, this is the first time I've ever properly worked as a tag team, as a wrestler. I mean, I have done shows as a tag before, but it was never a permanent thing. It was, like I said, a promoter just throwing two guys together, So I've done a few tags in that sense, but never in the sense of actually sitting down, coming up with a name, actually trying to create chemistry, as you said, So this is the first time for me, so it's quite new for me at the moment, but I am really enjoying it.
Cool. So let's go on to your journey then, from a fan to in the ring. When did you decide you wanted to get in the ring, and how did you go about that? So what was your early transition like?
Well, I first wanted to be a wrestler when I was about 13, 14 years old, probably like most people my age, around the Attitude Era. Out in the backyards on the trampolines, all that kind of stuff.
I always wanted a trampoline for that reason. I never had one.
Mattresses. When I was I think I was 15, I created a video. So obviously Jackass was big at the time. So we kind of melded them together. And I remember I made a video of me. It was literally just a montage of me jumping off high places.
Okay, cool.
And my big plan at the time was, obviously I was so naive, I had no idea how to do it. But my big plan was to film myself jumping off all these high places and then just send it to the WWF. That was the plan.
Probably what was responsible for that. I don't know. Mick Foley. That's sort of, they did a whole feature of him, didn't they, around 97, 98 on that. Yeah,
and because they showed that, I was like, that must be a way to become a wrestler. So obviously, I filmed it, jumped off some high places, hurt myself a lot. This is probably why my knees are so buggered now.
Right.
And I never ended up sending it, but that was my plan. Told my parents, I was like, I'm pretty sure most parents wouldn't want their 15-year-old son to come in to say, oh, my career, I want to be a professional wrestler. Obviously they laughed, and then I forgot about it for about 15 years. And I didn't actually enter the business as a wrestler until I was 29, 30. So I started, so I started a lot later than most people.
That's cool. That's quite encouraging. I mean, it was always a childhood dream of mine. I think I am past that now. But past a certain point, when I was like 18 or whatever, I decided, well, I've missed my chance. That was the chance that I was on the verge of actually going to a training school or whatever. And then I backed out and I was like, that's it. I can't do it now. I'm too old. So the fact that actually, you moved into it at that age, that's really encouraging. So
definitely. I mean, I would never say that you can be too old. Obviously, if you're 70, there might be a few issues, but I would never say you're too old. Around, in anywhere between under 45, 50. I mean, I know people that have gotten into it at 45 years old. So
really? Yeah.
And the thing that convinced me to do it, because obviously I same as you, I was like, oh, am I too old to do it? Am I just being an idiot? Shall I not bother? I can hurt myself. I don't need that when I'm 30 years old. And I went straight to thinking about Batista. Like, he didn't start wrestling until he was 28, 30 years old. DDP, he didn't get into the ring until he was 35.
Yeah, I kept thinking about that, actually. I didn't know that at the time when I was growing up. I mean, that's quite impressive to see what he's done.
So, I took that and I thought, well, if those guys can do it, then I'm going to give it a try. And well, here I am.
fair dues. So how did you move into the training? Where did you go? How did you find, a place to start you off?
Well, I started off at a place in Port Talbot. It's called Royal Imperial Wrestling, RIW, known as. Due to various different things happening that I had nothing to do with, so I won't get into, the head coach left and created his own school called All Star Pro Wrestling Academy in Swansea. So I went with him, with a few others. And then, I've trained there for about 2.5 years, nearly 3, I think. And then I moved on from there and created my own thing.
Cool. And we'll get into
That's
that.
a very quick way of putting it, but
yeah. So let's just sort of discuss in between that then your career so far as a performer yourself. Sort of, do you have any early memories of either the first match that you had or those first matches? How did they go? Any particular memories?
Yes. My first match was in 2018. Ooh, that's weird saying that. 3 years ago. Obviously, everyone keeps forgetting we had a year off.
That's true. So, yeah.
My first match was in October 2018. It was against a fellow trainee or ex-trainee of mine called Tom Ferriman. We were both pretty green. It was my first match. I think it was his second match, maybe. Right. It was very nerve-wracking. The big advantage we had is because we trained at the same school, we had a lot of time to go through what we wanted to do. I don't want to say rehearse because that sounds like it's a play, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. There's no better word for it, is there? But everyone can relate to that. So yeah, totally with you. It's a lot more than that.
But it went really well. It was a good match. I can't remember anything going wrong. Obviously, I was greener than Kermit the Frog at the time, so I wasn't very confident in front of a crowd. And gear was bad, all that, but I think it's kind of a rite of passage. If it's your first match, you kind of got to go through that. You got to pay your dues in a way to do that. So, it was a great match. I loved it. As soon as I came back through the curtain, I wanted to go straight back out again. So that was a good sign, I think. That's
a good sign for you. Yeah. Did you have in those early days? Did you have people sort of giving you pointers? Sort of constructive criticism, or straight off the bat was it just positivity?
I don't think anyone even at a level of, say, being in the business 10 years I don't think anyone should stop learning. No. I think everyone should always take some kind of criticism, whether it be constructive or positive or negative, whatever. But I'd never stand there and say I don't need someone's advice, and I don't think any wrestler should do that, because you can always learn. There's always someone or something to learn. But the good thing about Exist Pro, who I was working for at the time, we always had outside talent coming through, working different matches. So we'd always have a lot more experienced guys helping us out, giving us pointers, giving us advice, that kind of thing.
Cool. Have you been able to work either in the ring with or sort of in the same events as any big names that you kind of learned from?
We had Eddie Dennis. I think it was 2019, possibly.
Okay.
From NXT UK, of course.
Yeah.
We actually did a seminar with him before the show. So a little training seminar that was very good. So I got to train with him.
That's cool.
He was in a Rumble, so I got to work with him a little bit. I've worked with Kelly Six, Scotty Essex, Lion Kid.
Yeah.
A lot of good names that you find on the UK scene. It's always fun to meet these people who you see, on bigger shows, and you think, oh God, I'm actually going to be working with them, so it's a bit of a wake up call.
I think that I've said this before as well. I think where the industry has gone, particularly in the UK, compared to where it was, I don't know, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, there's so many, it seems like there's so many more opportunities to sort of grab that brass ring, as they call it. NXT UK obviously at the top, but there's so many promotions that have popped up. Have you found that? Obviously, I wasn't aware of how big the Welsh wrestling scene was until quite recently, to be fair. Have you witnessed that since you've been doing it? Is it grown within that time, or was it fairly established when you got into it?
Yeah, it was. I would say it was a good 3/4 of the way established when I'd gotten into it. I mean, obviously, as you said, there's NXT UK at the top there, but you got Progress, you got many other top tier promotions in the UK, which I'll be completely honest, until I actually got into the business, I wasn't fully aware of a lot of them because my experience with watching wrestling in the UK came from, as you said, 20 years ago when there basically wasn't a scene. It was the stuff you'd get at holiday camps, caravan park,
which pretty much made fun of it anyway a lot of the time.
Yeah, it was like rip-offs of it was like the Undertaker and Kane with spelled with a C or something, so little things like that, and which I'm not knocking that. There's nothing wrong with that type of wrestling. Like, there's a huge company in Wales called Welsh Wrestling who they're doing hundreds of shows a year, and they're making a living doing that, traveling across different holiday parks and different things like that. And more power to them. They're a great company, and the guys on those shows make a good living doing that. It's just a different style of wrestling. That's all it is. So I'll never look down on anything like that.
I think I spoke to Jack Morris from ICW a little while ago, and I think he had done some of those circuits, and he was mixing that in with ICW and whatever he was doing. So it's still wrestling. It's just it's appealing to maybe a wider market. I mean, you're appealing to the young family market, aren't you, with those? But it's probably those that create the new fans as well. Back in my day, it was very much what was on TV, and that was it. But you can actually go out there and experience it in person a lot more over here now.
Yeah, that's right. I think a lot of people need to. I know some people that take it for granted. They don't realize, like, back in the early 2000s, we had nothing in the UK to go much except those circuits, as you mentioned. Those traveling camp shows. So like, now you've got so much wrestling to choose from. It's unbelievable. You could literally travel the UK and see a wrestling show every night of the week. Before COVID, more so, but it's slowly starting to come back to that now. Obviously, with COVID, stopped it a bit, but before COVID happened, you could literally travel around the UK and see a wrestling show every night of the week if you wanted to. There's always something going on.
What was the biggest challenge for you, having, obviously, like you say, you only properly started in the ring 3 years ago, and then you had that year off just really as you were probably getting started? What was the main challenge for you then, trying to pick that up again? Or were you performing during lockdown in one of these sort of closed door shows or something?
So I didn't do any shows or like tape shows as they were during COVID. Not so much because I wasn't booked. I mean, I wasn't, but I don't think I would have chosen to anyway. No. I would have taken them. I think I choose my words carefully here. I don't want to not look down on anyone that did choose to do it. That's their prerogative. But I personally would have chosen not to do it because I think we all had a responsibility to try and beat this thing, ruin the world. But I think I was on a show down in Devon for DWA literally like 4 days before the first lockdown happened.
Okay.
And I don't think there was obviously talk of it. There was rumors, and we were all like, don't worry, it'll never happen. We'll be wrestling again in 4 months. And then everyone knows what happened. So
yeah, a little bit longer. I don't think any of us thought the first lockdown was going to signal the end of life like it did, really.
Because after the first lockdown, obviously everything shut down. We stopped training. We stopped doing everything. And then we had that little bit of time just before Christmas where they opened everything up again. So we were like, oh, now we can train again. And then literally 2 weeks later, it was like, bam, stop.
Yeah.
It was like get going and then you stop, get going and then you stop. It was really annoying.
Yeah. So I think you obviously, you have to keep training yourself, keep yourself in shape during that point, or did you give in to lockdown like the rest of us?
There was a little bit of lockdown belly going on, which I think I still have actually. But
I think it's a new trend in the wrestling scene now. You can all get away with it for a bit now.
Yes. It was a bit difficult. I mean, obviously, the biggest thing for me with the gyms being closed, I mean, apart from the physical working out side of it, which obviously I like to do, but it was the mental health part of it.
Yeah.
The gym is a huge part of a lot of people's escapism through mental health. And when they took that away, I think that hit a lot of people hard, a lot harder than they thought they was going to be hit. And when they reopened the gyms, it was amazing. It felt like 3 Christmases in one. But, yeah, it's very hard to work out at home. I mean, obviously it's possible, but you know, it's a little bit harder to get motivated to work out when your couch is right next to you and you can just watch TV and eat pizza and whatever you want. You know?
Yeah, I'm not a gym goer. I used to be a lot better. I mean, before kids came along, and I just cannot seem to get into a routine going to the gym now. But I found during lockdown, me and my wife, we had a plan that we were going to do. We signed up to Les Mills because we loved Body Combat, and we'd done that years ago. So we were going to do that every day or 5 days a week. We paid for a year's subscription, and we started with the best of intentions, and then it just became like, I just can't get motivated. Like you say, in your house, you know, we were having to do it in our kitchen when it's just like, you know what, I don't feel like it today. You know, it's yes. No, but just going back to you mentioned just before lockdown you were working in Devon. Do you remember whereabouts that was? Because I'm down in Devon.
Oh,
just interesting.
I don't remember off the top of my head, but I've been down there a couple of times for a couple of promotions. One is Devon Wrestling Association, and People's Republic of Wrestling. That was in Redruth, if you know.
Oh, okay, yeah, down the depths of Cornwall.
A few years ago.
Cool.
That was actually before my debut. We went down, me and a couple of trainees and my old head coach. We went down just to show our face, you know, help out. I ended up filming the event. 2 of my friends ended up getting on the show in a Rumble, so it's always worth. You know, it's always worth turning up to these places to help out with your gear because you never know when you're going to get asked to go on. You know. So.
The Rumble, I get a feeling is one of the best ways for new guys to break in, because there's so many I've spoken to, that's sort of been their first experience. Yeah. Would you agree with that is one of the best ways to kind of just sort of cut your teeth, as it were, get a feel for being in the ring, even though not
definitely.
Do a full match?
I mean, it's a situation where you don't have to be so pressured because there's so many other guys in there with you, so not all of the focus is on you. So if one were to mess up, it's not too big of a deal. You know, you're not going to be in a Rumble doing, you know, 1.5-minute spots or like things like fast, like Osprey style things. You know, it's all going to be very basic strikes and very basic moves. And plus, the good thing as well is most of the time you're going to be in there with a lot more experienced people. So you're going to be looked after, basically. So that's probably one of the best ways to break into it, because you don't have to worry about it too much about, you know, as I said, the focus being on you. So I would say either a Rumble or like a multi-man tag match is a good way to cut your teeth.
Cool. So let's just quickly then talk about Chris Bevan in the ring. Who is Chris Bevan in the ring? What's your persona for anyone who hasn't sort of seen you in the ring?
It's a bit of an issue I have because I don't think I have one.
You are just you.
It's just me turned up to like 20.
Okay.
It's basically it's me. So I wrestle as Bevan, the Bastard Son.
I love that.
And it's kind of an excuse for me to do violent things that I'm not allowed to do in the real world.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So obviously not for real, but I get to pretend to do it to people that I'm not allowed to do in the real world. So it's kind of me like letting out all of my anger, letting out all of my frustration, and because I'm quite a chill person in real life, I think.
I'm getting that vibe, actually. Yeah.
So. I can be a little bit hot-headed sometimes, but I'd say 99% of the time I'm quite chilled out. But in the ring is where I can completely flip that, and I can be the angry, violent, horrible bastard that I am in the ring, you know. So, and I kind of enjoy it. So.
Oh, there you go. You got to enjoy what you're doing, and I think everyone is probably glad to hear that you're not.
Yeah,
it's not just you outside the ring as well.
Yeah. When I'm out of the ring, I'm a teddy bear, really.
So let's talk as well about specifically, obviously, because this is part of the Behind the Karnage sort of spotlight series. So your experience so far with Pro Wrestling Karnage, sort of how did you get involved with them, and sort of your take on their first event where you became one half of the first ever tag team champions. So just what's your experience been like with them so far?
I knew a lot of the guys that run and help out at Karnage from previous shows and stuff. The place I mentioned earlier, RIW, where I first originally started training, I know a couple of guys from there. They've obviously since left there. So yeah, I knew them all anyway, so it wasn't as if we were strangers. And then I saw that they'd started Karnage, and it looked really good from where I was standing. You know, obviously it was over lockdown where they announced it, so obviously it was up in the air of when the first show was going to be, you know, blah blah blah. So but when they actually announced the show and it looked great, and they'd had a venue, and I was like, I was really happy for them. You know, this is going to look good. And then some of the guys started coming to my training facility, No Mercy Wrestling, and yeah, we just got talking, and they were like, "Do you fancy being on the show?" I was like, "Okay, let's do it."
Cool.
And yeah, and then certain things happened with Bishop, my tag partner, and his old tag partner, Fletcher Law. He couldn't make it anymore, so I stepped in as a replacement, and yeah, and then we won the title. So
there you go.
Yeah, it's just how things fall into place sometimes. You know, if one door closes, the door opens, that kind of thing. I'm a big believer in that.
Yeah. I know you know, it's a little way. I mean, we're probably about a month or so still before the next big event that Karnage have got. Have you got sort of any inkling as to, you know, what you guys will be doing, or who you would, in an ideal world, like to work with? Who's on the roster at the moment?
I'm not sure exactly who we've got for the next couple of shows. I mean, that's obviously up to the powers that be at Karnage. Yeah. I know that we don't care who it is. You know, we love working with anyone. So, well, we like beating anyone up. Let's put it that way. As regards to who I'd like to work with, I'd love to work with High and Mighty, Martin and Mark. Apart from being great guys, they're really experienced. They've been around the game for a long time. They're just so easy to work with. You know, I mean, if you put easy to work with in the dictionary, their faces would be there. You know, they're just really, really cool. Good guys to talk to as well. Yeah, I'd really love to work with Cue Ball again. He was in the first match we had at the first show, of course, with Big D. Yeah, all of those guys are great guys, and I love to work with them all again at some point.
Cool. But you'll take whatever they throw at you, which is always good.
So. Any and anything, we'll take it.
You got those belts, you got a target, you know, around your waist there. So whenever you got them.
Well, you know, we're planning on keeping those belts for quite a long time. So
very cool.
They're probably going to have to start bringing in some outside tag teams to try and get them off us at some point.
Love that. Well, you're doing your bit to help them grow as well. So, you know, never a bad thing. So outside of the ring, but still attached to the ring, then you've mentioned it as well, that you are actually, you have a training school of your own. So tell us about that, when you got involved in it, sort of, how it came about and sort of what it's doing at the minute.
So, as I mentioned before, I left my old training school, I think it was last year now. Many reasons I won't bother boring anyone with. Okay. I was trying to think of where I could go next, you know, what schools were around, just trying to make a plan. But obviously, because we were locked down, no schools were open. No one was doing anything. So I was kind of stuck in limbo for a while. And when I was, obviously, you have Dragon Pro, you've got Welsh Wrestling, you've got Exposure. They're all in Wales. They all had schools, but they were all closed at the time. So I was like, I'm a bit stuck, so I didn't know what to do. And then I found out that majority of them weren't going to reopen anytime soon. So I was kind of like, well, my choices are I either travel really far into England somewhere to go to a school, or just make my own. So I decided I had the resources at the time to do it. So I was scrolling through Facebook one day, and I just noticed 16-foot wrestling ring for sale.
Right.
I was like, I'm going to take that as a sign. So I messaged the guy, and I bought it. Only issue was it was in Glasgow, so I had to go to Glasgow. Yeah.
Oh no.
So it was from a promotion called Respect Pro Wrestling up in Glasgow.
Okay.
And I could talk for about 2 hours on a whole other podcast about the trip to get that ring. It was a story.
I was going to say, logistically, you know, they're probably, there's a lot that, as much as people think, you know, they're not made of plastic, they don't come in one bit or whatever. There's a lot that goes into constructing a ring. So
yes, a lot of steel, lots of wood, lots of heavy lifting, a lot of hassle. Let's just say it was a bit of a mission, but we got it in the end. Yeah, and then I started looking for a venue or a place. Found a place in Caerphilly because I was aiming at Cardiff because I knew when lockdown eases off, there's going to be quite a large number of wrestlers around Cardiff, Newport, you know, South area that won't have anywhere to go, won't have anywhere to train because everywhere's still closed. Obviously, because of all the speaking out stuff that happened as well. Yeah, there was all that involved with a few of the promotions that they couldn't come back. So I was like, I might as well try and capitalize on it. You know, apart from myself capitalizing, I can also give a place for everyone to go to so they can actually get the ring rust off, you know, have a bit of time in the ring. So because shows have just started to come back as well. And obviously you don't want to be jumping 100 miles an hour straight into a show straight away without training or anything. So you're either going to hurt yourself or someone else, and no one wants that. So yeah, I thought that was my idea. I thought I'd set a facility. It was purely at the time, up until yesterday actually, it was just purely for working wrestlers. It wasn't going to be classic classes as you would know it for beginners. So it was a place for working wrestlers or advanced trainees to come work off the rust, you know, get some training back in, get some open ring time before shows start up again. And yeah, it's going really well. It's going very, very well indeed.
Cool. What's it called again? Sorry, I might have missed that if you
No Mercy Wrestling.
No, there we go. And if anyone out there is looking at this and kind of either or, you know, there's someone who just wants to get a bit more training in that's in the area, or someone who may want to start, where can they find or contact you about sort of coming to you?
So we are on all social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, that kind of all of that good stuff. It's at No Mercy Wrestle. So that's wrestle, not ing. Someone had already taken it.
Oh no!
Yeah, I know.
Bastards.
So I thought No Mercy Wrestle is the next best thing. Cool. We've also got a website, nomercywrestling.co.uk, or you can email us info@nomercywrestling.co.uk as well. So there's plenty of places to get in touch. But as I said, as of yesterday, we just announced that we are taking on beginner students now. So so we've got classes starting up on a Sunday evening, 6:30 till 9:30 p.m. And we're going to be, not only is it going to be tailored for beginners, but it's also going to be good for any workers that just want to brush up on the fundamentals, you know, just get back into rolling and bumping and your basic stuff. So it's going to be good for everyone. I'm really excited for it to start.
Oh no, all the best, mate. That's amazing. And on the, you know, the total beginner front, is there just kind of thinking off the top of my head, this is something that I was always interested in. Is there like a youngest that you would take, you know, like kids out if they wanted to start this, or you know, is there something in place where you can only take, you know, from a certain age up?
So there's a lot of schools that will do kids classes. Me personally, I decided early on, apart from the fact that my insurance only covers 18 and plus, but even if that wasn't the case, I would still only choose to take 18 plus.
Sure.
A couple of reasons. One, for a morality reason. We all know what happened with speaking out. We all know the horror stories and the horrible stuff that happened with there. I personally believe that people aren't ready for the world of professional wrestling. Like once you're in it, you'll know what I mean when I say that. Right. I don't think people are mature enough in their mind to be ready for what they will happen, if that makes sense. You need to be of a certain mindset to be used to it. And I don't think 14, 15, 16-year-olds should be thrown into that.
No.
straight away.
It's one thing watching it every week on TV.
Yeah.
It's it's not going to be what you see, is it?
Of course. Yeah. And not only that, there's the physical aspect too, like obviously, as everyone knows, when you're 13, 14, 15, whatever, your body is still growing, your body's still developing. And if you're training and you're throwing your body, doing the things that we do on a regular basis, it's not going to be great.
No.
Like, as I can't remember the name of the scientist now, but he was a physician who basically said, every time that we bump, it's like a mini car crash on our necks.
I heard that. Yeah.
It's like, so you imagine a 14-year-old whose body is still developing, is still growing, going through that on sometimes 2-3 times a week.
Yeah.
It's,
it's going to be some damage.
Exactly. So I personally have made the choice to only take 18 plus.
Well, responsible? No, that's, I think there's no one out there who would not understand that. We'll praise that. So very cool. No, and is it a long way off probably, but sort of plans to kind of keep it as a training academy or sort of open it up one day as a promotion in its own right?
There has been talks of it. I don't want to say too much right now because it's not set in stone. But there's definitely been talks of a show or two possibly happening in the future.
Cool.
Whether or not that will be, what kind of scale that will be on, I don't know yet. But I've never been. Because I come from film and TV, like that's what I used to do. Okay. I'm very big on having a good production. So I wouldn't want to put on a production that is subpar or that I personally would think this isn't worth the money. Do you know what I mean?
No, that's fine.
So if and when shows happen for No Mercy, I want it to be the best they absolutely can be, and I don't want to rush that.
No,
so I don't want to put a show on that someone's going to pay, so I don't know, £10, whatever, and go in and say, actually, this isn't really worth £10. That would be the biggest, failure for me personally as the owner. So yeah, as soon as I get to a point where I know my production is going to be up there and top standard, that's probably when I'll think about putting it on.
That's cool. Having a background like that, I mean, the way that the industry's going as well with like streaming services and YouTube and everything like that, it probably gives you a good grounding, doesn't it, to be able to work with your vision for it from that aspect as well. So
yeah, the good thing as well is obviously with all of my contacts in wrestling and outside of wrestling even, I've got a lot of contacts that can help me out with making it the best it can be. Obviously within wrestling, I know in the last, say, year or so, I branched out and networked a lot, and I've met a lot of people, a lot of other promoters, a lot of different wrestlers. So yeah, there's a lot of good things coming for No Mercy. Cool. I can't say too much more though.
No, that's cool. No, fully appreciate that. No, all the best with it. It's brilliant to know that it's even though I don't keep up with the industry as a whole like I used to, seeing it, especially in the UK, grow like it is, and all these opportunities arise with people like yourself, not only doing in-ring stuff yourself, but growing it in the community and giving more outlets for people to get involved is brilliant. So cool. Thank you. We'll start to wrap it up with a few fun quick fire questions, but I do just want to say thank you so much for coming on. This has been brilliant. Sort of again.
Thank you for having me.
No, anytime. It's great to kind of. I love to hear the in-ring side of it from you guys, but also with yourself. You've got that other side as well, which really interested me. I've always been interested in how these things come about and what goes in the behind the scenes, as it were. Even though at the initial the training stage, that was brilliant to know. That you're doing great stuff, and all the best with it.
Oh, thank you very much.
No worries, but so let's wrap it up. Similar questions that I pelted at the others. Really, I'm really intrigued. So your gut feeling answer as best you can for each of these. So at the moment, the biggest thing going on, I'm interested, AEW or WWE?
AEW. I used to be neither.
Okay.
I used to be more NXT. But I think even that's slipping now. But I'd say in the last 2 to 3 months, AEW they've surpassed what anyone would ever think they could have done. And I really, really think Vince is starting to shaking his boots a little bit now.
I think some of the ideas he's been coming out with the last few years that I've seen, senility seems to be setting in. Maybe a little cruel, but I think where you had too many people running WCW, which is where it went wrong. I think, in my opinion, he probably needs to be sort of given a little bit more of the control over now. But that's down to him. What's your opinion of what they've done with NXT? By the way, I'm not too hot on the reasons why they've sort of rebranded it, but what's your take on it?
I'm not 100% sure what's happened, to be honest, because I kind of stopped. I went off watching NXT mainly when I started No Mercy. I was just so busy. I kind of fell out of watching it. That was mainly the reason I had the network, was A, to watch NXT, and B, to watch old pay-per-views. I was never watching anything new. And then I kind of, once they took Triple H off the creative team there, it was like, it's kind of just become a smaller version of Raw or SmackDown. It's like,
he really, it's a telltale sign, isn't it? When the guy who you could credit with creating what NXT was, just to kind of move him off it. And
it's kind of, it's like NXT used to be, it used to feel special. Like similar to old ECW, it used to feel like that little underground, thing that not many people knew about, that it was special to you. It's kind of like the little promotion that you could fit in your back pocket, but now it's become too big for your back pocket. So it's kind of, it's pointless now. It's like, it's no different to the others.
I'd be ashamed to see that it's kind of swallowed up now, because it dwindles, especially, I mean, when AEW came out, they were competing with NXT, I think, on the same night. And I can't see that there's much competition there sort of going forward with it, really. There we go. Okay, so talking like superstar level now. So Hogan or Flair?
Flair. For the word, that's me speaking as a wrestler. As a fan, Hogan.
Okay, interesting. Diplomatic.
As a wrestler, anyone that wrestles will know that Flair obviously is the better worker. Anyone can say that. But no one can deny what Hogan did for wrestling in the 80s and 90s. He's one rung below Vince McMahon about making wrestling what it is. So as a fan, I was a Hogan fanatic when I was a kid.
Okay.
I loved Hogan. So he'll always have a special place in my heart. But then the more I've grown up, the more I've learned about the business, and then I've realized how much of an asshole he was as well. So
I think the foundations were there with Flair. He really did. I mean, he was responsible for where it was going. I think, unfortunately, the NWA just didn't have Vince McMahon's money or Hollywood vision. That's really, I get that. I got a little tired when I was growing up with Hulk Hogan fairly quickly, probably within a couple of years. But again, you can't deny WWF wouldn't have been what it was. There wasn't anyone else who could have done that, who could have taken them that far. So fair dues. Sting or the Undertaker?
Undertaker.
Cool. Didn't know about that one.
Mainly because I was never really a WCW watcher or fan when I was a kid. This is going to sound crazy, but I didn't actually know WCW existed until like NWO came along.
Okay, no, that's fair enough.
I didn't, because like when I was a kid, we didn't have Sky until like quite later on, so I didn't even know about WCW. Like I was WWF through and through. I bled WWF. So and obviously the way Vince did it back then was never mention your competition. So because they never mentioned them, I never knew they existed. So I think I didn't know about Sting until later on.
We were a little starved in the UK of WCW anyway, because I was the same. We didn't get Sky until 95. I never started watching Nitro till it was on TNT over here. probably around about then, or 96, which was right before the NWO hit. Before that, you were lucky if it would be on Saturday afternoon TV, maybe worldwide or something like that, sporadically. Yeah. So yeah, no, you could be forgiven for that, I think, because WCW probably wasn't really worth looking at before. No. I'm very sentimental over WCW, probably up to about 91, 92 from the late 80s. But sort of what they did then when they brought Hogan in, I think it was pretty dire until they turned him. So.
I remember when I was a kid and they did that big announcement. They basically gave him a carnival when he signed with WCW. Yeah. I remember seeing that on the news and I was thinking, who are these? What is this company that Hogan is now with? Like, why is? I thought WWF was it. I thought that was. I didn't know about NWA. I didn't know about the territories at the time. I knew nothing except WWF. That was it. Yeah. And I was so confused. I was like, what's he doing? Where's he going? But then talking about getting Sky TV, I remember when I first got it, flicking through and I saw, I think it was like 11 p.m. on a Sunday night on Bravo, ECW, Hardcore TV.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
That's how I discovered ECW. And that changed my life. I was just like, I didn't know wrestling could be this. Like,
I know.
I've just gone from watching Doink the Clown fight a garbage man, and now I'm watching someone smash a chair over someone's head and like dive into fire. I was like, whoa, my mind.
Yeah. It was the Attitude Era before the Attitude Era. Let's be honest.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's where I discovered like a lot of my favorite bands from. Like I hear wrestlers coming in to like Pantera and stuff.
Yeah.
Music's great before they were allowed to censor it and all that stuff. So a lot of my life is from ECW, funnily enough.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Go on then. Let's throw another one in there. Your opinion then. Paul Heyman at ECW or Paul Heyman now? Bit of an easy one, really.
Ooh, I would say now because he's matured a lot and he obviously realizes that he can't get away with not paying people anymore.
Yeah,
that's what he used to do at ECW. But again, no one can deny his absolute genius back in the heyday of ECW. Like he was, as you said, he was doing Attitude Era before Vince.
Yeah,
Vince kind of stole everything, you know. So
I did it was an audio episode a little while ago where I went through my top 5 talkers, because for me almost a bigger part of my appeal with wrestling when I was growing up is the guys, the commentators or the promos, and that it was in what they were saying. Yeah. And I just realized Paul Heyman wasn't on my list, and he probably was on the mic. He probably is one of the best. I mean, going back to when he was Paulie Dangerously in WCW. Yeah,
he's one of the best ever.
He is. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Maybe I got to redo that one.
Just tell a story and just has you transfixed. Even when, like, I don't know if you've ever seen it, there's like a clip of him on YouTube at his Inside the Ropes talk, and he's telling the story about possibly there being a conspiracy about the streak being ended, and he was like talking about how
yes, I did see that.
If Brock Lesnar wanted to take the streak, he could just take the streak. Yeah. He was like, but you'll never know if he actually did or not. And it was like the way he does it, like he should be a public speaker if he ever quit wrestling. He's so good.
He is very good. Yeah, I'm kicking myself now. I can't believe I picked some really good ones in there, but completely forgot. Oh, there we go. I got to re-record that one. Anyway, final question. This one probably is a little, if you've seen the last few that I've done, you probably know which one I'm going to throw at you. Probably a little mean to put you on the spot, really, to fly. But your 4 wrestling, I wouldn't say wrestlers, I would say wrestling figures then, not action figures, you know what I mean, that you would put on your Mount Rushmore of wrestling.
4, yeah?
4.
Okay. I would go Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Oof. I don't want to leave any out, but I also... Do they have to be wrestlers, or can they be... No,
I think just influential, you know... People, yeah.
Okay. Hogan, Austin. I'd probably put Vince on there, you know.
Okay.
Because, as we said earlier, like...
You can't really deny it, can you? No.
Wrestling wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Vince. So Yeah, maybe Vince, and I'll go with Shawn Michaels.
Hey, yeah, okay, cool. That's a good one. Fellow HBK fan. Are you? I don't know. You may, yeah. I wanted to be him. Around about '96 when he was doing the whole comeback thing, and then WrestleMania 12. I wanted to be him. I thought that was amazing.
I love the Rockers, so I was always a Shawn fan. Always.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. There's one question I forgot to throw in there. Austin or The Rock? I'm always intrigued with that one.
Austin for me.
Okay.
I was always the Austin fan. I mean, I did like The Rock, obviously, but I don't know. Austin, he was just more, like he could be a bloke you'd meet down the pub.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Whereas The Rock would turn up in a stretch limo, like
so. Yeah. Brilliant. Cool. Now, listen, Chris, thank you so much for your time. You've given a shout out to your wrestling school. Now, where can people find you on social media if they want to keep up to date with what you're doing?
You can get me on Facebook. I'm going to have to double check what my Facebook is. 1 second. Sorry.
That's all right.
That's very unprofessional of me.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
I didn't think to even get it up before. Yeah, so on Facebook, I am Devon Bastard Son _PW. And then I think I'm also the same on Instagram, Devon Bastard Son _PW. And then on Twitter, I am at Devon Bastard Son.
Cool. That's
the best places you can find me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't got a very common working wrestling name. So if you just search Devon Bastard Son, I'm pretty sure you'll find me.
This is where we find that's been taken as well. I'm sure it's fine.
Well, I kind of took the Bastard Son. I kind of took from Phil Campbell, who's in Motorhead. He has a band with his sons called Phil Campbell and the Bastard Sons.
Okay.
And, I'm a big fan of that band, so I was like, I'll borrow that, and it works. So.
Might have to check that out. Didn't know that.
Yeah,
cool.
Very good.
Cool. Thank you again for coming on. This has been a blast, mate. All the best with everything, in ring, out of ring that you're doing. Keeping a close eye, like I say to all the guys on the Pro Wrestling Karnage. I'm really enjoying what you guys are doing as a whole. So I'm sure there'll be more of these to come. Be a spot for you again if you want to come back, at some point and give us an update. So cool.
Great. Well, thank you very much for having me. I've enjoyed it.
No worries. Thank you, mate. Take it easy.
Cheers.
If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to like, share, and hit the subscribe button. Also follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Once Upon a Turnbuckle to keep updated about all future shows.